how old was Joe when you guys first realized the talent that he has?
Well, he started playing youth sports, second or third grade, and we moved to Athens, Ohio in the second grade. So, very good baseball player, basketball player. He started playing youth football in third grade, and even back then, I saw that he was one of the better athletes out there, and really had a willingness to compete and want to do the best that he could, and he liked going to practice. And so that even as far back as then, I thought if this keeps up, then he's got a chance one of these days.
Was he better at a younger age at sports than your other two boys?
They were all pretty good, and just as he became the quarterback, there were just more opportunities for him to dominate a game. My son Dan was a quarterback in high school. They didn't really play youth football, and my son Jamie was a linebacker. But they were all very good athletes. Jamie and Dan, they call him Super Burrow, so in their minds, he was definitely the best athlete growing up.
Was there a moment when he was young where you thought, wow, like he's maybe not 7 or 8, maybe he's a teenager, but was there one moment where you thought, wow, he's special?
See some videos circulating out there now of him, fourth grade, maybe sixth grade, where he's throwing the ball downfield, and as a coach and watching my two other boys grow up, I mean, you usually just hand it to the biggest, strongest, fastest guy, and Joe was dropping back and slinging it deep to his twins that were receivers. They're now the starting tight ends for Ohio University. And so I'm thinking, this isn't normal. And then as he got into 9th and 10th grade, scoring a lot of points, and I asked a couple of coaches, does Athens normally score like this fast and this many points, like in 7-on-7 tournaments? And they said, no, this is a special group, and Joe certainly was the quarterback.
With as good as he was at basketball for so long, when did you realize for college and beyond that football was going to kind of be the route for him?
Well, we started, some people think that his best sport was baseball, but as we were doing those three, it just became hard in the summer when he started playing AAU basketball to get all that in. And so we took him about hour and 15 minutes away twice a week to practice basketball, because again, we thought that was his sport. He had the body type for it. He hadn't really filled out yet. And then 9th grade, he started every basketball game as a freshman. But in the 10th grade is when he became the starting quarterback, and that's when he started breaking records and being recognized across the state. So 10th grade, we said, hey, this is going to be football. It's not going to be basketball.
Has he always been so cool, calm, and collected, or is this a new thing for him?
No, I think so. I think he's probably as he's become more confident with LSU and with his teammates and what's going on, I think his personality has grown outside his comfort level once upon a time. And he was never a scream guy, a holler guy, but he was always a leader, and I think that carries over now. But it's fun to see his personality, because he is having fun, and that's a big part of having success, is being able to have fun.
Recruiting is obviously so different. I mean, you've been a coach for 40 years. You know all about recruiting and how it works. But even today, it's so different today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. What do you recall from his recruitment from high school?
Well, we started getting people interested after his 10th grade year, and 11th grade. After his 11th grade year is when we started going to some camps, and then he started getting offers after his 11th grade year. There was a lot of them. In his mind, it wasn't one of the top Power 5 schools, but he had a lot of great places. Ohio University, where I was his first. He would have turned down a lot of Power 5 schools to play for the Bobcats if Ohio State hadn't come calling. Tom Herman was the lead recruiter for Joe from Ohio State, and he had gone to Tom's camp after his 10th grade year. Not very impressive, just talking to them later, but then Coach Herman saw him throw at a session after his junior year and was sold. but he had to sell Coach Meyer. And Coach Meyer always said, hey, I've never offered a quarterback without seeing him in person. And then Alabama flew in to watch him throw. Tennessee flew in to watch him throw. They were supposed to get back to us the next week. So the bigger schools started to pick up, and Coach Herman just kept telling us, hey, wait, you just got to hold in there because I think it's going to happen. And then really, after those guys were there 1 week, the next, I think, Tuesday is when Coach Meyer called an offer. So it was a process.
So LSU, you were saying some of the other schools, the bigger name schools came in late for him. LSU was never, were they never interested at all?
It's just because Southern schools probably aren't coming, for the most part, to Athens, Ohio. I had a former teammate that was the assistant head coach at Alabama, Burton Burns. That's how they became interested. The Tennessee coaches had been at Cincinnati, so that's how those two came about. And but for the most part, it was like Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Indiana, those type, and then toward the end, actually Oklahoma got involved late. I think Joe had actually already committed. And then Tim Beck went to Texas. I'm sorry, Tom Herman went to Texas. So a lot of these recruiters thought, hey, that's Joe's guy. Maybe he'd look around. So Oklahoma came in then.
Was it as soon as Ohio State offered? Was that pretty much?
We had
this. The dream. I know about Nebraska.
Yeah, it became his kind of go-to school because they just won a national championship. But we were never Ohio State fans. We had no Ohio State gear. Joe, it was just, hey, we were Ohio University and basically in Nebraska fans at the time. But once the process started and he realized, hey, I may have a chance to play again at the highest level, then Ohio State had been his choice, and we discussed if they did offer, that's probably where he was going to go. I think it took 8 minutes for him to call Coach Meyer back, and Coach Meyer was always wondering, why did it take 8 minutes? So he said, well, I had to call my parents and let them know and make sure we're all on the same page, but it was a fun day for us.
What, I don't know him personally. We've interviewed him a couple of times, but you keep hearing, especially like Coach O and some of the other players, talk about his work ethic and how hard he works and how long he spends watching film.
Yeah.
And is that something you instilled from a young age, or is that something that as he's gotten older with the maturity that he's learned?
I think it all started when some people did, start to doubt him for whatever reason. He wasn't the most heavily recruited quarterback out of high school, so in his mind, he should have been. He didn't play at Ohio State. In his mind, he should have had an opportunity at some point in time. And then just, coach's life is basically 24/7 football. We leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, we get home at 10 o'clock at night. In the season, you're gone recruiting. I think just knowing what it takes to be a coach, and then his older brothers played at Nebraska, and he heard stories about how they had to prepare, and it just all kind of meshed in his mind that this is what I need to do to be the best.
Right.
I guess the process of realizing he was going to move on from Ohio State and look for another opportunity, what was that process like? What were those conversations like between you all as a family? It
was tough on his mom and I, Robin, just because we knew he was struggling with a decision. We knew he wanted to stay at Ohio State, but deep down probably said in his mind and in his heart, I probably need to leave. But it was a long process for him just to decide to leave. Discussions with Ryan Day and Coach Meyer, discussions with us, discussions with his older brothers. And then it just finally came down to I'm going to have a better opportunity somewhere else. I can win the job in the summer, but right now I'm slightly behind Dwayne Haskins, and they said, hey, you may beat him out in the summer. But again, I think that's where just our knowing about coaching and would kind of put him behind the 8 ball going into the summer. And then he had to decide where he was going to go, which was another, it was exciting, but again, it was stressful for all of us, including Joe.
For someone who's so confident and so competitive, it seems like that'd be such a difficult thing to weigh.
Well, it was. I mean, he had great friends at Ohio State for 3 years. He still comes. He still communicates with them, sees them. There's 1 or 2 coming to this game tomorrow night, I think. So that was, he didn't want to leave. I mean, that's we knew that from the start. But again, it was a business decision, as I've heard him say, he thought he could win that job even if he came back. But he just thought, after visiting with all of us, that the opportunity would be greater somewhere else.
What do you recall from that initial visit to Baton Rouge, first meeting Coach O? Is there anything that really sticks out?
Actually, as we were going through the airport, Coach Meyer called Joe on the phone just to check in, make sure he was okay, and as I said, he still has a great relationship with Urban Meyer. But I can remember that thinking, mine's Coach Meyer calling, but just wanted to know what was up and if he was okay. So I remember that, and then just getting picked up at the airport and meeting Coach O, and everybody said, "Hey, wait till you hear him talk," but it was just so excited for us to be there, and very confident, great recruiter.
Did you know right away that, like, after you guys sat down with him, because he's very charming in his recruitment, and like you said, he's a great recruiter. Did you know right away, or did it take Joe a while, or like what was that conversation like when you were leaving?
He wasn't sold 100%. Joe wasn't when we left. We felt, our whole family felt, we could trust Coach O and Coach Ensminger. Those were the 2 main offensive coaches at the time, and that was a big part of it. Can we trust them that they're going to give you an opportunity? They never said, "Hey, you're the starting quarterback, just come here." They always said, "You're going to have to compete. We have 3 other guys," and we respected that too, especially me as a coach. And it took him a week or so when he got back to even make that final decision.
When he made the decision, did he come to you guys? Like, what did he say when he came to you and said,
Well, there was about it was again midweek to late week, and we had been communicating, and he said other coaches had continued to call him, and he just said, "Hey, Dad, I don't want to talk to anybody for 48 hours." And I said, "Okay, well, our mom and I will keep in touch." And he says, "No, that means you and Mom also." So he wanted his time alone, and I think that was the final process that he needed to come to grips with, "Hey, I am leaving. I am going to LSU," and that's how he came to that decision.
You'd probably had crawfish before that trip. Had he ever had crawfish before the Mike Anderson's trip?
No, he had never. And to tell you the truth, I don't think I had either. I grew up in North Mississippi. That's catfish country, not necessarily crawfish. And I'd had it, I think, somewhere along the line. But yeah, they didn't have any at Mike Anderson, so Coach had a bunch brought in from somewhere, and Joe enjoyed that.
What was it like watching him attack those the first time?
It was fun. I mean, we had Foster Moreau was there as his host, and they became friends. I was just with his parents last night, so that was a great relationship that developed, and it was a fun weekend.
How long did you guys stay at Mike Anderson's for that?
Oh, it's probably 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it was just a casual dinner, but we were probably there 2.5 hours, I would think.
You guys off to the back?
Yeah, there was a private area that we were in, and Bill Bush was there, some of the other coaches, Coach Ensminger and his wife, Coach O and his wife, Derek Panamsky, who's always around and involved, and Rob and I, my son Dan.
Something, obviously yesterday was media day, so we had a good hour yesterday, kind of talking to as many players as we could fit in that time. Towards the end of that hour, I was talking to Miles Brennan and what he's learned from Joe and what he's learned from Joe Brady also this past year. And something that kind of stuck out when he was describing Joe is he called him cocky confident. and I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Is that, has he always been
He's
that
been,
way?
he has. I mean, I think it's just he's so competitive. He likes to win. You know, we're playing youth soccer in second and third grade, and you're not supposed to keep score, and he knows exactly the score afterwards. And just again, the will to want to win and play well. He's always been confident in his ability. I mean, if you ask him now, did he ever expect to be where he is on Monday night? He would say, yes, I did. I just needed an opportunity. So, and then people ask his teammates, and I've seen this over the last 2 years, they say, yeah, Joe Burrow's cocky, right? And they said, no, he's just, he's just really, really confident. And I think that's kind of what Miles was talking about.
Right. I mean, not cocky in a bad way or anything like that. The other thing I was curious about is obviously you retired after, how long were you a coach? Was it 40 years?
Yeah, about 40 years.
What,
The August one that I was this year was the first day in August in 51 years that I hadn't been on a practice field either as a player, as a coach.
So what's, I mean, just for you, what has this season been like? I mean, obviously getting way more time with your family and friends and enjoying it, but like to experience everything in Baton Rouge and to see, where it's all taken off for him.
Yeah.
And to be able to just be a part of it all.
And that's the main thing. I just wanted to be a part of it. I couldn't have predicted that all the success that he and LSU that they're having, but it wouldn't have mattered just to be with him and to be able to watch him. I was fortunate to watch most of his high school games. I worked for Frank Solich, and he let me go to almost all of them. So that was awesome, and I'd miss that. I miss seeing him after the game, even though it's usually brief. I missed watching him warm up, and I had to watch all those things on television. So it's been way above my expectations, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You're obviously enjoying retirement.
Yeah, it's good. People want to know, hey, you're coming back, right, next year somewhere to coach, and there's no plans to. I mean, I've had a few people reach out just to see if I were interested in coaching again, and I miss it at times, but there's a lot going on with Joe after this championship game in the next few months. So another exciting thing for our family to be involved in.
What's, I guess, as you see, obviously the process to set all these records, to win the Heisman, people are talking about him as potentially #1 NFL draft pick. What's been the most startling's probably not the right word, but
shocked or awed.
Yeah,
maybe.
like a moment where something happens and you guys just kind of have to pause for a second and be like, is this really where, like, this is big?
For me, my idol growing up was Johnny Unitas, the great quarterback, and so John Unitas Jr., when we were there for the Golden Arm Award, and so we went to the Johnny Unitas statue outside the Baltimore Stadium, and he pulled on over. He gave Joe the 19 classic Baltimore Colt blue jersey with his Golden Arm trophy, and kind of my knees kind of buckled a little, and I said, this is pretty cool and stuff. So that's one. Of course, the Heisman, when he's standing up there, and you just look around at all the greatest players that's ever been in college football, and it's like, hey, somebody needs to wake me up one of these days.
Did you expect him to get as emotional as he did on stage? I mean, he does. I mean,
yeah.
And I feel like I've read or saw you guys talking about you're not emotional guys.
Yeah.
I think one of your sons said they've maybe seen you cry once in their entire life. So were you expecting that?
Didn't know, and I think I don't know if I saw it on an interview or either we asked him, and he didn't know how he was going to react. I think that's when he started to choke up. He started actually laughing because I think he just thought it was funny that, of all the emotions, that's the one that dominated what was going on up there. And I mean, it's a tough thing. Somebody says, well, you weren't that emotional. Well, I'd had times during the course of the day where I'm in my own hotel room with Robin, and you're tearing up a little just knowing that the gravity of what's getting ready to happen.
I think he had. I mean, I know plenty of people that talked about that speech in that moment. I think he probably had all of Louisiana in tears with him up there.
Well, it was all from the heart, very genuine. I'd gone down to his room maybe an hour and a half before we to go over to the Heisman, and he was jotting down what I later learned was 3 or 4 bullet points on a small card. I don't think he ever even looked at it. As a matter of fact, afterwards I said, Joe, you didn't really look at that, did you? And he said, no, I really didn't. I might have glanced at it when I first got up there, but then it just came from my heart. So and that's the best part of that whole thing for me is, seeing, yeah, he's a great football player, but he has the ability to stand up there and share his emotions and his thoughts with everybody and really in the world.
Something I was also curious about, I mean, obviously you've been around football for a long time. What are your thoughts on this LSU offense and what they've been able to do? No one's really been able, I mean, Auburn a little, but they still put up 500 yards. So just your thoughts on this offense and what they're doing this year.
Well, it's a great concept that Joe Brady and Coach Ensminger has put together as far as throwing the football and running and the up-tempo. It suits all of those players. That's what Joe did from basically 9th grade on, so he was a lot more familiar with it. The one thing I think that gets overlooked is all those guys on offense, 2 things. One, they're very smart, so they have to have the ability to adapt and to change the play and understand the game plan and blitzes. And then 2, just the character on that whole football team is unbelievable. And yeah, some of them have overcome things. Some of them were some of the top recruits in the country, but it's a smart football team with a lot of heart and a lot of character.
What's the most Louisiana phrase, topic, words, anything you've ever heard Joe say in the last 2 years?
That's a good one. I don't recall anything. He thinks it's funny when we're out that people call me Mr. Jimmy and Robin Miss Robin. That's just not something that happens in Ohio. But I don't know that he's picked up anything. I know the other night he was eating wild game food over at somebody's house where they shot ducks and things like that, which is out of his comfort level to eat that kind of stuff. But he said he enjoyed it.
Really? So, I mean, obviously he keeps talking about, playing in the NFL, all of that stuff was not really his dream. His dream was to play in a national championship for a college team. And he's on the verge of doing that, potentially winning it. So what's after that? I mean, what's the next couple months going to look like for him and for you guys as a family?
Yeah, I think I've said many times, and so is he. That's why he chose to go to Ohio State, because they would give him a chance to play for a national championship. That's why he chose LSU in the long run. He thought they had the coaches and the players to possibly get that done. Monday night is his goal. After that, it'll start, preparing for the NFL, and I'm sure he's going to hit that running just like he's prepared for college football and all these big games that he's been playing in. He hasn't had any contact with agents or marketing people or anything like that in person. We've kept that process all to Robin and I, so there's a lot of things that he has to catch up on here and in the next few weeks to get his team together. He'll be a part of another team first that includes a lot of different people, and then eventually there'll be another team that drafts him. So it's an exciting time, and really it's a lot going on for Joe Burrow and his family.
How will you guys celebrate if they're hoisting the trophy and the confetti's falling and it's purple and gold confetti? How will you guys celebrate?
That's a good question. I know Joe likes being with us initially after a big win, but then it always reverts back to I want to be with my teammates, and so we'll have to work through all that. But I know it's going to be a big night in New Orleans.
What is maneuvering through the fanfare been like for you guys? Von Rosenberg posted a video from last night where it was like 5 or 6 girls see Joe and scream like it was like old Beatles videos almost.
Was that on Twitter or
on his Instagram?
Yeah.
Everywhere you guys go now.
Yeah, and it happens to my wife and I. Robin just because they show us on TV and there's been a lot of media attention for us. I didn't do any interviews 2 years ago because I was coaching. I didn't want to take anything away, and then I just became more visible and did interviews and did radio shows. But it's out of control for Joe. His life will never be the same. I think ours will settle down. We'll kind of fade into the backdrop, but Joe is just going to continue to be out there and visible. So it's going to continue to be crazy.
Do you think he'll ever get used to it?
No, he would rather be with his teammates, and he would rather those guys get the glory and get the accolades. He was so happy that on the LSU awards when I think Clyde and Lloyd got the MVPs. I mean, that was perfect for Joe because he knows how important those guys were and are to LSU football. And I know that some of these awards that he always says, really all of them, he knows that it's because of his teammates, and he loves it when those guys are. I think he was more nervous at the one that Grant went in the, no, it was the receiver award. The Bolitnikoff and the one Grant won. He was more nervous about those guys winning than, hey, am I going to win?
Well, I mean, you talked about him not getting used to it and all, but he obviously saw after the Heisman speech, the platform and the good things. I mean, he didn't ask anybody to donate to the food pantry, but I mean, that kind of took off on itself. So, I mean, is that something where he's maybe learning that he does have that platform where he can, hey, if I say this, I can help this group of people, or,
Yeah, I mean, he had no idea that was going to raise over $500,000, but 31 seconds from a high-profile athlete like Joe can make a lot of changes in people's lives, and it can really change the dynamics of like you saw, the food pantry in Athens. So he realizes that now, and I know he wants to do more. And people are going to start reaching out to us soon as he's done, and to possibly set up some other opportunities. But he knows he's always been very guarded and careful about what he says in interviews, and now that he knows that, I'm sure he'll incorporate more into that as he goes forward.
Was that the moment that maybe you guys realized, his family, at how big of an influence he has on this fan base?
Yeah.
Or was it something before that when you realized how special this LSU fan base and the connection to him
I think when that was certainly the kind of the end result of the season and what all's happened, but him wanting to put BURREAUX on his jersey, I knew that he felt a special relationship to the people of Louisiana and LSU, and even his teammates. They were so excited in the locker room that he put that on. They were trying to get him to wear it the whole game. But then you said you knew that, hey, he knows what kind of effect he has had on people, and that was going to be a big thing for him and the people of Louisiana.
Did you guys know about the jersey going into that day?
A couple days before we did. We didn't know how it was going to go about, and we didn't really know whose idea it was, but later found out it was Joe had gone to the equipment manager, Greg Stringfellow, and wanted to do something special, and that was it.
That moment, the senior night recognition of the jersey and everything, had to be such an emotional moment for you guys.
It was. I mean, to be down there in front of all those people, and to know that the last guy introduced in the senior night was going to be our son, and that he was going to come out into that. But even then, the effect and the ovation was overwhelming to his mom and I. We got all kind of those videos that we've seen from different angles, and there's an unbelievable ovation. But when he turns around and shows them his jersey, I mean, it's just out of this world how even more the people appreciated that.
What's his relationship with Joe Brady like, and just kind of the special season, him coming in, Joe taken his game to another level, obviously, this year, and just the specialness that the two Joes
Yeah.
have brought to this offense this season.
Well, as soon as it was announced that Joe Brady was coming, J.T. Barrett was a quarterback at New Orleans Saints. That's one of Joe's best friends. Called Joe and said, "You're going to love this guy. He's going to bring a lot of great passing concepts, a lot of great knowledge." So that sold Joe, right away. And then the relationship just continued to grow. They may talk on the phone or get text if Coach Brady's watching film and Joe's at his apartment. Coach Brady may text, "Hey, they're doing this or that." So just a great line of communication. And then to make that all work, you have to give Coach Ensminger credit too, because it's still as big. He's still as big a part of the passing game and this whole offense as Joe Brady. He's actually still makes most of the calls. So the dynamics of those three together, and then you put Coach O in there as the CEO of all of it and the great players, and that's what you're going to see Monday night.
Could you have ever imagined any of this? The records, the awards, the amount of points they've put up,
No.
the potentially #1 draft pick in the NFL, any of it?
No, but we didn't anticipate it in high school, and they scored the most points in the history of Ohio. He won all the major awards there, and none of that we expected. We always were confident Joe could play at a very high level. We thought he had the ability to play in the NFL, but just needed the opportunity. But no, you couldn't have expected. Somebody said, "Well, you dreamed about it, right?" No, I don't have 20 dreams about each one of those things that's happened, and that's probably how many it would take to dream all that.
What are your thoughts on if the Bengals take him at 1? He'd be real close to home.
Yeah, we could be sitting in the stadium in about 3 hours and 15 minutes. So that would be a great opportunity. A lot of things can happen between now and the draft.
As competitive as he is about football, obviously different sports. Someone found out that Zach had beaten him in ping pong a few times out in Atlanta. What's kind of is there anything that you've seen him be really competitive about that's just kind of like a weird, random little side thing, game?
Oh yeah, have you seen the globes with the golf ball on the tee? And sometimes it takes maybe me 30 minutes to 40 minutes to get the thing. Have you seen those? Well, he and my dad, who's 88 years old, have a contest to see how many times they can do that in a minute. And my dad and Joe can do it, 7 or 8 times in 1 minute, which is incredible. And but my dad's competing at his age with Joe about something like that. But just part of his DNA, I guess.
Is your dad gonna be here?
No, they don't like crowds now, and he just soon sit in front of his TV. My mom and dad came to the Mississippi State game. He had played basketball at Mississippi State, and he thought that was a cool thing to get back and watch that game.
Last one for me, and something, everybody keeps talking about Joe and all of this wrapping up the senior season, but I mean, what about for you guys? Like, you've come, you've enjoyed Baton Rouge, experienced the tailgating, and then now it's going to be cut cold turkey kind of. What's next year going to be like? Are you guys going to miss being in Baton Rouge every weekend?
We're going to miss. We're already talking about the Texas game coming back, and Alabama, and all these people say, "You got to come back next year to the tailgates," and we will. It's going to be emotional. But 5 years of a young man playing college football and all the workouts and the games. I mean, he's ready to take the next step to play professionally, and we're going to be there to help him in every way possible. But we're going to miss it, that's for sure.
So we might see you in Baton Rouge next
Oh yeah, we'll be there.